Hello, we're going to work this photograph and make it a little bit more mystical, a little bit more purple, a little bit more whimsical, I guess. As you can see, I've actually photographed exposed for the skin tones so that her skin tones are correctly exposed, nice and creamy. However, for me, the background is now a little bit dark. So I'm going to work on that to begin with. So that's what I'm looking at in regards to this file in Lightroom, is the exposure. Okay, so first things first is I'm just going to press reset, make sure we're working off the original file, which we are. I'm going to go into the develop module and reduce the exposure by about 1 stop of the whole entire image. Then press the adjustment brush and I'm going to raise the exposure on her just a touch. In fact, I'm going to overdo it. So I want to go about a stop over. Just a little bit more than that at the moment, but you get the picture. Okay, so now let's go back down a little bit. I want to go down to the post-crop vignetting. Now, in regards to post-crop vignetting, if I have sky, then I'm likely to use in the style area the paint overlay, because paint overlay actually puts a mask over, which is a grey mask, over highlights, whereas whereas highlight priority ironically doesn't seem to affect the highlights. So I'm going to this time use highlight priority because I haven't got any highlights up here, and I'll just minus that a little bit. I'm going to bring my feather right down, my roundness down, and my mid-tone down, or up I should say. Alright, and that's where I'll leave it. So now she's brighten up, except the area around her is a little bit darker, and that's all I'm going to do in regards to Lightroom. So let's export that. And we'll open that in Photoshop. Okay, so now we have the photo in Photoshop. Now I'm going to work with the color a little bit. Now, in regards to getting it looking like it's a little bit mystical, of course it's going to depend on the photograph. However, for me, I'd like to make the light appear a little bit foggier around her. So what I'm going to do is make it darker at her feet and lighter in the sky. And how to do that is to add in a new fill layer. So we go to Layer, New Fill Layer, and Gradient. And we're going to make a gradient. So we just leave this all as it is. And I'm going to make a black and white one. Okay, so I just press OK on that, and as you can see I've got white at the top, black at the bottom. Now if I reduce the opacity of that down, I now have a white area here, and it still keeps a little bit of the darkness down the bottom. However, I'd like it to still be a little bit darker down there, so I'm going to grab a black brush with a large opacity and make sure I actually click on the mask and erase off. And I am going to erase off on her. Just a touch. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go in and do another fill layer. New fill layer, gradient. Okay, and this time I'm going to keep it with the black to clear. Now you can also change the angle, but I don't want to change it. I'd like to keep it as it was, so that it's dark at the, light at the top, dark at the bottom, and I'm going to press OK on that. Now again, what I want to do is click on the mask, and with a black brush I want to erase off on her. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of that. Okay, so now you can see, to see what I've done, I'm going to duplicate the layer and merge these layers so that you can see what I've done. Okay, so that's before and that's after. Now, what I have is an image that's much hazier around her, however she still has the same kind of contrast, or similar to the contrast that she originally had. So again, before and after. Now this look isn't for everyone, I understand that. Okay, so now I'm going to go down the bottom to the masks and grab a color balance. Now this is where you can have fun with the color. You can almost go any way that you want. Make her more yellow, but I'm going to go with blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of red and a lot of blue. Alright, So now she's a lot more purple. Just the opacity of that a little bit. Alright, now I would like to see what an S-curve might do in this situation. So I've just got the curves mask and I'm going to S-curve her up a little bit. Right. Now, I like what that has done to the background, but I'm not so fond of what it's done to her, so I've just grabbed the mask and I'm going to erase off on her with a bigger opacity. Great. And the area around her a little bit. Alright. Okay, so now she's more mystical, so I'll just merge these layers so that you can see where we're up to now. Okay. Now, we can add a hue saturation layer here. That really is up to your taste. So I might just saturate that up a little bit. Again, I'm going to grab that mask and erase off. Now, one thing that really stands out to me is her dress. So I would like to see if we could contrast that up again. So I'm going to make that stand out a little bit more. So I will actually go overboard here. I'm just going to do a fairly big S-curve, press Control I to invert it, so now it's not there anymore, and I'll grab a white brush and paint that back on and see what we come back with. Okay, just reduce the opacity of that a little bit. I'm not sure, it's just made it darker. However, hopefully she's a little bit more contrasted here in the highlights and the midtones. Okay, so now I'm going to flatten that. And do a portraiture. And I'll adjust the opacity of that. And voila. Now, you know, with portraiture, as I've mentioned before, I click on the skin tones. Usually I reduce the saturation a little bit, but I'm okay for her to stand out. However, if she is still too orange for you in this photograph, you could actually go into, let me flatten that, or duplicate the layer, image adjustments, hue sat, and click on any other color but red. So I'm going to click on blue, and then I'm going to click on her face, and it's going to bring up red too, which is perfect. And I just minus the lightness, so bring the lightness down. Now, if she's African American, then I might actually go the opposite direction, so it darkens and desaturates the skin. However, I'm just going to go minus. Well, I guess it actually is plus, whereas that's minus. I'm going to go lighter. Okay. And there's the difference. So I'm going to reduce the opacity of that layer, and voila. Okay. So she's done. Now I'll go and press reset on this. Okay, so that's before and after. Thanks for watching.